welcome to the Get Up Girl podcast. I am your host and your gal, Joanna Vargas, and this is the show where we know that when you ask better questions and when you get genuinely curious, you can create infinite possibilities for your life. And that's where the shift and change happens. Thank you so much for either watching. I do go live every week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, and this has also turned into a podcast. So if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, thank you so much. Today is a solo show, and it was inspired by a Starbucks, I'm going to say, sit down that I had last week. And it's all about speaking up. Are you speaking up? Or do people have to say, excuse me, or what, or huh, because they do not understand you, they cannot hear you, and you are unclear with what you would like to say? Last week, I had about 45 minutes to spare before I had a facial. So I was driving from one part of the city to the other. So rather than going home, I didn't have enough time. I said, well, I'll drive to my facial appointment. Then I'll find a coffee shop and I'll sit there with my computer and do some work for about 45 minutes. I found a Starbucks and it was a nice day. So I ended up sitting outside instead of going inside. I'm like, you know what? I want to be in the sun. It was a beautiful day. And the only thing was that the outside portion of the Starbucks was right next to the drive through. And I didn't have my earphones with me. So I thought to myself, do I really want to sit here and listen to this drive through? And I thought, I'd rather listen to the drive through than go inside and be, in a stuffy room. So I stay outside and I'm now listening to every car that comes through. Now, remember, I'm only there for about 45 minutes. And if I had to take a guess, I'd say there were about 25 cars that came through. So that's about a car every 2 minutes ish, 25 to 30 cars. And this is my biggest one takeaway that I discovered sitting there for only 45 minutes. I'm going to preface it that I started to get really agitated and annoyed because of what I continued to hear over and over again. And this is what I took away from that experience. Only a very small percentage spoke up clearly when they went up to the little box, to the little microphone and ordered their drink. Like I was sitting right next to it because that's where the seats were. They weren't far. They were right next to it. I mean, I was probably 4 or 5 feet from the actual microphone. So I should be able to hear what this person is saying. And only a very small percentage. I'm going to say 3 people. 3 out of 25 people, I heard clearly what they asked for. And I'm going to tell you that when they asked for it clearly, I heard it. My ears perked up, my eyebrows perked up, and I was like, "Oh, I understood what they said." Me, tall, macchiato, whatever. I don't even know. I'm not really a Starbucks gal, but you get what I'm saying. And it was so clear that I could have written it down. I heard it. I got it. And most, I would say at least 50 to 75% of people were inaudible. You could not understand them. It sounded like they had marbles in their mouth. They're speaking low and they're speaking like this. They weren't moving their mouth. And the gal on the other end of the drive through, she had to say this 50 to 70% of the time. Excuse me, can you speak up? I cannot understand what you're saying. She said those 3 sentences. I'm sorry, can you speak up? I cannot understand what you're saying. She said it verbatim. So this tells me this is not the first time she said it. This tells me that she has said it often. I don't know how long she's worked there, but it sounded like she worked there for a long time. She just had it down. That girl was sharp. She was like, got it, got it. Okay, see at the front. See at the next window. That gal was really, really sharp. And you could tell, I was aware that she was doing her best, her darndest to really understand and listen and hear, but she didn't get what that person said. And she said those 3 sentences over and over again. I heard it at least 15 or plus times just in that 45 minutes. So that's once every 3 minutes. I heard it again. I heard it again, verbatim, word for word. So she already had this scripted out. You're like, I already know what I'm going to say because I can't understand them. And then they would speak up just a little bit. They would turn it up like 2%. And then she would sometimes have to say, please, can you speak up louder? I cannot understand you. And then they would speak up 5% more or clearly. And they were talking like this and expecting her to get her coffee. And I'm like, wow, these are grown ass adults, grown people in the 30s, 40s, 50s that were not speaking up. I do take that back. There were a lot of probably 20-year-olds, all ages. So I'm saying grown. These are not kids. These are grown adults that were not speaking up. And it was nothing about gender, it was nothing about race. I mean, it was all over the place of because I started to get curious. I'm like, wow, now I'm in. I am so in. I'm not even focusing on my work because now I was like, this is interesting. And I asked the question, where am I not speaking up? Where are people not able to hear me clearly? Now, I work on my diction. I work on my verbiage. I work on my cadence and how I speak. It's very important for me to for people to understand me. It's very important for me for people to hear me clearly in what I am saying. And also I was brought up, my father, if you did not speak up, he would not say what or excuse me. He'd always say speak up, speak clearly. I heard that over and over and over again. So I'm like, I wonder if these people were never taught to speak up, or maybe they were and they just chose not to. What is it that they are not speaking up? What is it that the confidence is so low that they don't want to use their voice? What is it that is creating this smallness that they do not wish to for someone else to understand what they're saying? So then I started to think, wow, how much in their life are they walking around and hearing this question and this thinking that it's normal? Normal for somebody to say, excuse me, what did you say? Can you say that again? Or are people just nodding? I know we've all done this. You just nod at people and you go, I don't know what they said. Just go, I didn't hear you. I'm done. And yesterday I went to a coffee place and Patrick and I went very early in the morning. So it's about 7 a.m., maybe 6:37. And you could tell the gal was kind of sleepy or whatever. And he and I walk in and we're like, good morning. It's like just, it's a normal time. It's not, oh, it's 7 a.m. and we're at a different level. I mean, we are alive. So our level is alive. There's no, oh, it's too early in the morning. We are up. We are alive. This is our level. Our level is the same. If you saw us, well, maybe not at night because I do get sleepy early, but maybe if you saw us at noon or if you saw us at 6 a.m., we are the same person, right? And we walk in and I say my order, and then she asks a question, and I couldn't hear her. And I said, and I even went like this. I go, excuse me? Like, because I'm like, maybe I'm just trying to do like, maybe she has low of hearing. I'm not sure. So I always do this, excuse me? And then she spoke up, like I said with the Starbucks, she spoke up 2% higher. And I assumed what she said. I'm like, I think she said, do you want anything else? I think. I'm just going to assume. Because if I ask her again, I'm like, man, I hope that girl speaks up. Have you ever asked somebody, excuse me, can you say that again 3 times? And you're like, I give up. I don't know what you just said right now. So I just assumed that she said, do you want anything else? And I said, oh, yes, we're going to take one more thing. And then I was correct. I'm like, okay, I think she said that. That's what she said. I'm like, wow, she's even working and she's not speaking up. Where are you not using your voice? So maybe you are using your voice, but are you dimming it because you wish not to have that conversation with somebody that's uncomfortable? Are you dimming your light because you don't want to be too much or too less? You want to be just right, normal. And I thought about this the other day. I was teaching fitness class, and I've done this for years and years and years. In January, I get my word for the year, and then I wear my intent bracelet. And my word this year is teach. And then I get the word from all the members, all my clients. And this year, I've been asking people what their word is, and I keep the music on loud. I'll turn it down a little bit, but I keep it loud for a reason because I want them to speak up so loudly with their word that I have to hear it over the music. So I'm like, hey, Susie, what's your word this year? And if she says committed. Like, I don't believe you. But if you're like, committed, heck yeah, Susie's committed. I can hear her over the music. It's clear, it's enunciated, and I got it. Everybody around her got it. I don't need to turn down the music. If anybody needs to turn down the music to listen to you, you're not speaking clearly. Speak up. Speak up. And a lot of us will talk about, you see it on Instagram, you see it on TikTok, Reels, quote tiles, on all social media about use your voice, speak up for your truth, etc., etc. So even though you can say it with your mouth and your words, can people hear you? Can people understand you? Are you saying it with conviction? Are you saying it with confidence? And are you saying it with a knowing, with a presence, with an aggressive presence that I am here? I know who I am. I know who I be in this world, and this is it. And I was talking to Patrick. I'm going to wrap this up in a little bit, but I was talking to Patrick the other day and I said, I wonder in the next 5 to 10 years, with AI going to be what it is, artificial intelligence, and like robots are starting to come in, who knows, that might be 50 years, 10 years, it might be 100 years, where like your children are actually robots now I know, that's a whole other podcast. But if you really study quantum mechanics, these are the things that they are predicting. And I started to have a conversation with Patrick and about the fear of, you know, are these robots going to take over, or are our jobs going to be gone? And I thought, you know what? When we have AI, what is going to be the differentiating factor between human and human? Because if you have Chat GPT that can write something for you, but they can't speak for you. Maybe in the future, a robot can speak for you. But for now, a human and a human, we're going to gravitate towards a human in which you believe, know, like, trust, and that you can hear and clearly understand. And if I go into a job interview, if you go into a podcast interview or another job interview for yourself, who are they going to hire? The person that they can hear, understand, know, like, trust, or the person that talks like this and they can't even move their face? Who's going to be the most animated and the person that people enjoy to be around? And that's what's going to differentiate us once computers start to become even more normalized than they are. So I'm like, wow, this is even more perfect timing to work on our diction, work on our speaking, work on our presence as speakers, as human beings, as people to stand out as a diamond in the rough. So I wanted to speak on that today, and so that you can see where you are not choosing your voice, where you are not, mm, where you maybe are having people go, what did she say? I'm not quite clear. Or they're second guessing themselves, or they're even tuning you out like white noise because they can't hear you anymore and it's unclear. So, really take that in consideration and remember that when you ask better questions and get genuinely curious, you can create infinite possibilities in your life. And if you're in the LA area and interested in my next in person event, it's going to be Sunday, February 19th, and I'm going to have a boss brunch. More details to follow. And hopefully, by the time this comes out, there's going to be a link at the bottom, or you can DM me on Instagram at Joanna Vargas Official to get more information. But only the best of the best. We're going to have a boss brunch, and hopefully, I will meet you there and give you a big hug, and we can work on our speaking and speaking up clearly. Love you all. And until next time.